Yeah, this is a very hard topic, but we should really discuss. I believe that everything is political. The water you drink, the air you breathe. As a woman, I really feel like I've got to work maybe 20 times more. Not when we talk about, world music thing. It's ridiculous too.
Welcome to Pop and Politics, your guide to art and culture in Turkey. I am your host, Kenan Behzat Sharpe. Each week on the show, we're joined by an artist, a musician, a writer, or other creative worker. This week, we're in Kadıköy in the art and bar and venue space Bina, and we're joined by a very special guest, Gaye Su Akyol. Gaye Su Akyol is a musician, a composer, a songwriter, and a producer. Her work interestingly combines Turkish classical music with Anatolian folk music and psychedelic rock, surf rock, and many other interesting genres. She worked with several bands in Istanbul and before releasing her first solo album, Develerle Yaşıyorum, in 2014. In 2018, she released her second album, Hologram İmparatorluğu, which caught the attention of music lovers around the world with its interesting blend of genres. She was profiled in The Wire, The Guardian, and many other international news outlets before raising the stakes in 2018 with her album İstikrarlı Hayal Hakikattir, or Consistent Fantasy is Reality. After that album, she won the Songlines Music Award for Best Artist. She was profiled in the New York Times, and now she's working on her fourth solo album, and we're very lucky to be joined by her here today. Gaye, welcome to the show. Thanks so much for coming.
Thank you very much, Kenan.
My pleasure. So normally I would begin by asking you about your influences and how you began your career, but we're at an exciting moment because your new album is about to come out. So I thought I'd ask you about that first, the Anatolian Dragon. I know you work a lot with concepts and you think a lot about each of your albums and what it means. I'm curious, what are the thoughts and inspirations for this new project and what can we expect in terms of the sound also?
Wow, great question. Anatolian Dragon, in Turkish we call it Anadolu Ejderi, is a magical dragon, a mythological one, which is awaking from its dreams in Anatolian lands, actually. So, in this album, I really wanted to share with the world that we need to be awake of what's going on right now. So, I imagined a mythological reality because, Anatolia is kind of a cultural background. It has a very beautiful background with lots of different cultures. So I dreamed of all these cultures come together and make one to become the power to change things. So basically, all these people living in Turkey right now and all the cultures that been here years before, we need to just get the forces together because the reality is so boring, so ugly. We need to change it immediately. Yeah, I can just say that this is a fictional contra-reality to change the ugly reality. So yeah, I can say that like that.
Yeah, wonderful. That sounds like the kind of energy we need right now, definitely with the way things are.
Exactly.
It also makes me curious about some overlap I see with your previous album. So Consistent Fantasy is Reality was a really beautiful album. And in particular, I love the music video for the title song. It's, for people who haven't seen it, you have these group of people, very different people from Turkish society, which is very polarized today. And they all get on a minibus and you're the driver. And suddenly they go out into another planet and all these divisions melt away. And there's this whole theme of imagination and it's almost utopian. And what really struck me too is that you released that music video on March 8th, which is International Women's Day. So I wanted to ask you about that project and also what you think about imagination. How it seems like you think imagination is a political force. How do you see that in your work?
I believe that everything is political. So the water you drink, the air you breathe, the communication between people, the hate you carry inside of your heart, all of these things are political at the end. So whatever I do, of course, it comes from a political view, but also to cope with this political reality, as I mentioned, I really, this is like a need. I have to do that. So this is kind of a need to change my own reality. So to make it, to cope with that one, I really come together with my dreams, with my imagination, with the fiction. So in İstikrarlı Hayal Hakikattir, yes, there was a very brief, a very strong political view, but still, I really, as an artist, I really don't wanna miss the point of, catching the metaphorical, symbolic way of telling your own stories, because everybody can think of the same thing about some political, ache they have inside of their heart, but the difference between them from a person to an artist to a musician should be really, they should find their own way of telling the things. So that's why my stories are, that metaphorical, that imaginative, that fictional, because I really want people to find a way of living their lives with beauty, with harmony, with art. So that's why in my music, yes, you can see all these realities about, the country's political, economical, and all these problems. But at the end of the day, I really need to see the originality, authenticity in the work of an artist or a musician. Thank you very much for your kind words of İstikrarlı Hayal Hakikattir. So that was what I was really chasing as an album, as a video clip, as a song. I was chasing for, a fictional contra reality of people coming together in a country which has really, honestly, have very, big problems about, coming together nowadays, of course, because it was not the same maybe 60 years ago, but things are getting really very stupid. I feel very sometimes very, very unhappy about the situation, but that's why my art, my music comes in another chance of make up the things a little more, culpable. That's why. Yeah. So that's the brief summary of all these things behind my latest album.
And it makes sense, because if we can't imagine a different reality, how can we even build it? So in that sense, dreams are so important to politics.
Exactly.
I really like, was it counter realities you said?
Yeah.
It's a really interesting term. And it makes me think like, a lot of your work will do kind of world building. And I know you're also a visual artist, and you did a gallery showing earlier in the summer, I think called İtaatsiz Kökler, so disobedient roots, maybe we can translate it. And I think there also you're imagining this different kind of world or even planet where people can live in different ways. And that makes me think like one thing people don't often remember about you is you're actually an anthropologist also. And it makes me curious about how this idea of imagining different societies and different worlds, and also, research that you do into existing societies or past societies. What does anthropology mean to you in terms of your musical and visual work?
The first reason I wanted to study anthropology was to really make my art stronger, deeper. That's why because when I was 17, 16, I really knew that I'm gonna make music and art sometime. And so that was the reason why I prefer to study anthropology. So the first thing I remember I learned from social anthropology was every culture is unique and none of the cultures are better than the other. This was the, starting point of everything in my mind, because when you look at the cultures, a human being can easily compare things from, this is a better one, or this is not a better one actually, but things doesn't work like that. So when you look up to the, artistic views of really cool, great artists, the main reason that we adore their works are the humanity and the deep perspective inside of their arts. So I'm very glad that I studied anthropology because as I mentioned, as I said, it's everything is political, and also the hatred you carry is political to another person, to another culture that you live together in a country or in a world. So this was the first practice I checked in my brain again and again. Okay, do I have these kind of boundaries or these kind of, maybe we cannot call them hate, but, a very strong, sensitive emotions towards anybody. So I think to be able to make, timeless and, universal thing to produce something universal and timeless, you really need to take a look at these kind of things inside of you. So I'm so happy to, really study anthropology. That's why I can check twice, like double check all these things while I'm writing my songs, while shooting our video clips, because, I think I look from a perspective of philosophy, philosophical perspective. We need to do that. The artists, the musicians that inspire me very much, I think they have more than music or more than talent. I'm not looking for the absolute talent, but I'm looking for some philosophical, anthropological, or some kind of imaginational point of view, which brings some new perspectives to the people, to the art. So yeah, anthropology, psychology, sociology, I'm pretty sure all these things can add up things to a brain which is open enough.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
One thing I'm curious about, so we talked about, what makes art universal. Of course, there are many things about local factors that influence people, and something you said in your acceptance speech when you won the Songlines Best Artist Award, I found really interesting. You dedicated the award to people in countries like Turkey where they have to work 10 times harder, you said, to get their work recognized. And
that's true.
We've been talking a lot about in the last months, all of us, about things that are happening here in Turkey with art and culture, the festivals and concerts that have been banned, restrictions on music, some high-profile pop stars even who've been targeted. So I'm curious how you see what it means to be an artist in Turkey, and what are the challenges? Of course, there are many.
Wow.
It's a hard topic.
Yeah, this is a very hard topic, but we should really discuss. All of the people should think about it, honestly. Things are getting worse and worse about this subject specifically. While, when I look at the people who live in Europe or America, but especially in Europe, the government, the people, it really knows that the government are behind them, not against them. You are not working against a power that, that wanna destroy your art and your free speech power. So the first thing is, of course, this one. You always know that there is something here, want to destroy whatever you say about free speech, about humanity, about your own cultural heritage or whatever you have in your hand. The second thing is, of course, it's not just because Turkey is kind of a third world country, but also as a woman, and if you're a queer person, it gets much more worse, honestly. It's not a coincidence to see that, or it's not a shocking thing to know and observe this thing, because unfortunately they are very afraid of an independent woman or an independent queer person who has their own ideas, rights, and who has the power to tell to the world that whatever she or he lives in. So as a woman, I really feel like I got to work maybe 20 times more, not 10 times, because whenever a woman gets successful about anything, people tend to, look up for another force, another hero behind her. Wow, who made you come to this path, or what made you be so successful? So
they don't believe a woman can do it by herself.
Sure, yeah. Even if she is the one, or for example, if she is like a producer or someone who are not very used to, as a woman get successful at specifically this thing, like, producer or engineer, for example, not the same in another thing, but I can honestly tell that geographically you have to work 10 times, of course, but still, if you're a woman and queer, you have to work more. I should say that if we want to change this, we really need to work more, of course, but we need to change the people's mind too, by working, of course, but also by claiming that we are individually the one who are getting successful about what we are doing. The songline speech was at this point, yes, very important, because they were not used to hear these kind of speech in that kind of thing. And it's also when we talk about world music thing, it's ridiculous too. It's like if you are not a musician from USA or UK, if you are not telling your stories in English, then you are the other part of the world. You are from the other part of the world, which means you are the world musician, whatever it means. It's like they are the capital of somewhere, and we are the rest of the world.
Because everything else is one category, world music.
This is really ridiculous, and I'm still very... I'm shocked still, because this is also something people get used to, use it. So it should be immediately changed. We talked with Chris about this hundreds of times maybe, because he is in the middle of all these musical things. God. So he thinks the same as a record label owner.
Guest here.
Yeah, come here. Now, we talked with Chris about this issue.
Chris from Songlines?
Yeah, no, Chris from Glitterbeat.
From
He is
Glitterbeat, your
the
record
owner.
label.
Yeah, he's the owner of the record label, and also he is a very great musician from 90s. He had a band called Walkabouts, but he still makes music. So he still, he also thinks the same about changing this thing. And I think that moment that I made that speech was something kind of game changer. I believe so, because after that speech, there were essay in, where was it? The Wire or Guardian? I'm not sure, but this was something that we really love very much. So they also made a very detailed essay with people who have some opinions about it. So I think it's gonna change soon, that world music thing.
Yeah.
Because it's so colonial.
Absolutely.
It's so it's colonial.
Yeah, definitely.
Nothing more.
Yeah, but you're right. I mean, there's so many challenges to being an artist from a place like Turkey, both internally, like we talked about, with all the politics that are happening, and then also the perceptions from outside.
Yeah.
But what's interesting to me is that despite all these challenges, there's an incredible music scene here in Turkey. People are doing really, really interesting work, and I would really love for more of it to be recognized, and not just as quote unquote world music.
Yeah.
So your career has been really interesting for me to watch, because people are suddenly, oh wow, there's this whole country over here, and they're doing incredible stuff.
Yeah.
That's breaking all their stereotypes and preconceptions about what music should be like in Turkey. So I think that's really hopeful that you're breaking through that. And
Thank you.
Hopefully things will change even more.
Yeah, I think so. There are really very talented musicians in Turkey, and lots of people nowadays make their own musics, making people come together, making their own bands, recording and releasing. That's a very, we think that every country is the same, but it's not actually. This is like a country which blossoms music everywhere. I love that. And I'm pretty sure that there will be much more to come, and also there will be some other bands names which will be released internationally, because authenticity is the most important thing, of course, while making your own music. I think the main reason years and years we couldn't have the chance to have really great bands who are internationally producing and releasing albums was that after the coup, the
1980 coup.
Yeah, the military coup, there was a very big destroy about our own culture. That's why people tend to deny their own heritage years and years. But for the last maybe 25 years, things are changed and people are more eager to find their own voices, find their own music. That's why I believe that it's gonna be much more authentic albums and musicians all around. Also, not just for music, by the way. In Turkey, there will be much more, things coming up as original from this culture, because this is kind of a big and connected thing to see that some original things are coming up.
Yeah, definitely. And if this much great work is being produced under these hard conditions, I can't wait to see when things finally get better and how things blossom even more at that point.
Same here, yeah.
Definitely. Well, thanks so much for coming on the show today. It was a real pleasure talking with you.
It's my pleasure, Kenan. Thank you very much, and I hope this program will go on so many years that we can see people from here producing and talking to you about their own original things. Thank you
so much.